Andhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatam Ham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in our very own South India. He's touring there. And last session we started with chapter 9. So we were witnessing that how Mahaprabhu was meeting different people, and everybody, just by looking at him, they were becoming so attracted to him and they were getting converted to Vaishnavism. And we were interacting with some Buddhists. So in the last session, that is what we were discussing, as how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was meeting the Buddhists and what is about to happen. So let's get into that section. So places visited and people met. This is the section, a huge section, 14 to 365 verses. Prabhu ke Vaishnava jani Baudha ghare gela Sakala Baudha mili tabe ko mantrana koila. The Buddhists could understand that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Vaishnava, and they returned home very unhappy. Later, however, they began to plot against the Lord. So we remember that Lord Chaitanya defeated the Buddhist spiritual master, and they had different types of arguments, but all of those arguments were not really based on very sound scriptural evidence, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could just defeat. And so the spiritual master, this Buddhist guru, and his disciples were very unhappy. They went back and they could understand that this is a great Vaishnava, but they started to plot against him. अपवित्र अन्ना एक थाली ते भरिया, प्रभु आगे नीला महाप्रसाद बलिया. Having made their plot, the Buddhist brought a plate of untouchable food before Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and called it Mahaprasad. So here we see apavitra anna. So this food was apavitra, or it was not pure. So it is impure material, which is not which generally the Vaishnavas do not accept. So they were aware that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Vaishnava, and yet they are bringing this food. So it is an offense of a kind that you are offering something to Vaishnava, the food which he cannot accept. And what they were doing is they were using the name of Mahaprasad. So they were calling it that it is topmost prasad. It has been come from the deities, and it was brought in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is what happens actually when we take association of non-devotee. So here, because Buddhists, these people were not devotees, and they could not discriminate, and they become offensive also. So they wanted to give something to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu which was not proper.
To spoil his the spoil the dharma of a Vaishnava, basically.
Yeah, so with that intent, they brought that food. And this is what happens, that if we take a lot of association of worldly minded people, like in the offices and all, we see that generally the lunch time and all of people sit with their colleagues and they have together, and then they take the jutha also from somebody else's plate and eat, and we don't know what others are eating or what has been cooked there, or whether it is fit for consumption by Vaishnava or not. So we have to be very careful by avoiding the association of such people.
And in this verse, the word Mahaprasad is being used by them. Now, one thing which we need to understand, Krishna says that in the 26th verse in the 9th chapter, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhaktya Prayachati Tadham Bhakti Upharatam Ashnami Prayatatmana. So, in this verse, if you look at, 2 times Krishna uses the word Bhakti. He says Bhaktya Prayachit and then Bhakti Upratam. So, he says, the Lord is saying that if something is offered to me with love and devotion, I accept. And by Lord's acceptance, it becomes Mahaprasad. So the food has to be cooked with devotion. It is meant to be offered to the Lord. Then it is offered with love and affection to the Lord, and then only Lord accepts. The Lord is self-satisfied. He does not need anything. But the devotee offers out of his love and affection to the Lord, offers Naivedyam to the Lord. So this is the process of preparing bhoga, offering bhoga, and then it becomes Mahaprasad. Now, when we see that these people are not devotees, they do not have faith in the deity, they do not have faith in the Lord. So, where is the question of having love and devotion, and where is the question of preparing bhoga, and where is the question of Mahaprasad? So, this is not possible. So, such food cannot be prasadam, because a Vaishnava, or one who's not a devotee, he cannot offer anything to the Lord. Even if he tries to offer, the Lord doesn't accept. So this is a very important point, that devotees have to be very, very careful.
Hina kale mahakaya ekapakshi aila, thonte kari anna saha thalila nagela. When the contaminated food was offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a very large bird appeared on the spot, picked up the plate in its beak and flew away. So Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself. He does not even have to desire. Things are just automatically arranged for him. So somebody brought this plate of impure food, and then there is this huge bird which came and he flew away with the plate itself. Baudha gane rupare anna pade amidhaya, Madhya Charitamrta thali padila bhajiya.
Indeed, the untouchable food fell upon the Buddhist. So as the large bird came, it picked up that thali with its beak, and it picked it up in a way that all the food on that actually fell upon this Bodha Gana. So the untouchable food fell upon the Buddhist, and the large bird dropped the plate on the head of the chief Buddhist teacher. When it fell on its head, it made a big sound.
तेराचे पडीला ठाली, माथा काटी गेला, मूर्छित आचार्य भूमी ते पडीला. The plate was made of metal, and when its edge hit the head of the teacher, it cut him, and the teacher immediately fell to the ground unconscious. So this heavy plate fell on the teacher, and he went unconscious. हाहाकार करी कांदे सब शिष्य गण, सबे आसी प्रभु पदे लाईला शरण.
When the teacher fell unconscious, his Buddhist disciples cried aloud and ran to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for shelter. So this is a very interesting turn of events. One, they were trying to offend Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this bird came and intervened in between, and the teacher fell unconscious. But there's an amazing response from the disciples. They ran to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for shelter. So this really changed the whole dynamics of the situation. तुमिता ईश्वर साक्षात क्षमा अपराधा, जियाओ आमारा गुरु करह प्रसाद.
So now the beautiful point is that in this event of calamity, they all accepted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they ran for his shelter. They all prayed to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, addressing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself and saying, Sir, please excuse our offense. Please have mercy upon us and bring our spiritual master back to life. So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita how 4 category of people approach him: Artha, Artharthi, Jigyasu and Jnani. So here we see that they were distressed and they could not find anybody else's shelter, and they took shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of this distressful situation.
And they accepted him as a Supreme Lord. So the whole, we'll see how wonderful things happen. Prabhu kahe sabe kaha, Krishna Krishna Hari, Guru karne kaha, Krishna nama uchchakari. The Lord then replied to the Buddhist disciples, you should all chant the names of Krishna and Hari very loudly near the ear of your spiritual master. So what has happened is, the Buddhist disciples came and surrendered to the Lord, accepted him as the Lord, and were ready to receive the instructions. So in that case, what happened? So now they are no longer of any other belief system. Now they have actually become Vaishnava. And what is the instruction the Lord gives them? Or the Lord in fact initiates them into chanting of the holy names. So the Lord has chanted the holy names in the ears of these disciples, and they have now accepted the holy names of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya, apart from initiating, he is instructing them to now that you chant and in the ears of your spiritual master.
Toma saba guru tabe paibe chetana, saba bauddha mili kare Krishna sankirtana. So this is how amazing the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happens. Now it is mentioned, Saba Bauddha Mili Kare Krishna Sankirtan. So all these Buddhists, they gathered and they were doing what? Krishna Sankirtan. By this method, your spiritual master will regain his consciousness. Following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice, all the Buddhist disciples began to chant the holy name of Krishna congregationally. Guru Karnika he sabe Krishna Rama Hari, Chetan Pana Achar Bale Hari Hari.
When all the disciples chanted the holy name Krishna and Rama and Hari, the Buddhist teacher regained consciousness and immediately began to chant the holy names of Lord Hari.
Hari Hari.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated the disciples, and then the disciples initiated their guru, the Bauddha guru.
So initiation basically means chanting, like he instructed them to take shelter of Krishna, and that is the duty of the Guru, that he guides us towards Krishna and he connects us with Krishna and his holy names.
And Prabhupada explains that this is the parampara system. That how in parampara, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated the disciples, then the disciples were chanting the holy names, and the Gurus they initiated him. So that's how the initiation happens in parampara system.
Krishna Bali Acharya Prabhu Karin Vinaya Dekhiya sakala loka aila vismaya. When the spiritual master of the Buddhists began to chant the holy name of Krishna and submitted to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people who were gathered there were astonished. So no one could actually believe that what has happened. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not preach. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not do anything. And they are all chanting Hare Krishna.
Did not do anything, did not interfere also. It was they that who came to wanted to offend Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The whole situation turned around and this happened.
He rupe kautuk kari shachira nandana antardhana kaila keha napaya darshana.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Shachi Devi, then suddenly and playfully disappeared from everyone's sight, and it was impossible for anyone to find him. Mahaprabhu chali aila Tripati Trimalle Chaturbhuja Murti dekhi Venkatadri chale.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at Tirupati and Tirumala, where he saw a four-handed deity. Then he proceeded toward Venkata hill. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is proceeding in his South India tour, and as we discussed in the last class, that this is not sequentially how he is moving, but then in this particular verse we understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking darshan of Tirupati Tirumala. He has reached there.
Tripati Asiya Kaila Shri Rama Darshana Raghunath Age Kaila Pranamastabana. After arriving at Tirupati, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramchandra. He offered his prayers and obeisances before Ramchandra, the descendant of King Raghu. So of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us that how a devotee leads his life. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Tirupati. Now there are many temples in Tirupati, and so here he visited the temple of Lord Ramchandra. So what did he do? He offered his obeisances and he offered his prayers to Lord Ramchandra. So something that we need to learn is that whenever we go to the temple, one, it's very important for us to offer our obeisances. By offering our obeisances, we are expressing our surrender to the Lord, offering our respects to the Lord, and then we also offer sweet prayers to the Lord to please the Lord.
Swaprabhave loka sabar karana vismaya panana shimaya Prabhu daya maya. Everywhere Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, his influence astonished everyone. He next arrived at the temple of Parna Narsingha. The Lord is so merciful. So this particular temple, the Parna Narsingha or Parnakal Narsingha, it is actually located in the place known as Mangalgiri. So near Vijayawada, this place is there 7 miles from Vijayawada. This is Mangalgiri. And this is a beautiful temple of Narsingha Dev. We are very fortunate that we had darshan of these deities. And these deities are very famous because there is a particular preparation called Panakam. It is like a jaggery lemon ginger drink, which is offered to the Narsingha deity here. And the Lord does not take more than half. So there is a sort of a hole, a depression there in the deity, which indicates his mouth. And when the devotees, they take Panakam for offering, and Lord accepts half of it, and then his mouth is full. And then comes the next devotee, and by the time the next one comes, the mouth is again like there is some space.
Dry.
It's dry, and then they again offer half of it. So that is how he is very famous. These deities are very ancient, self-manifested deities, and they are very famous for this beautiful pastime where they accept half of the Panakam and half he returns as prasad for the devotee.
And within this temple is a conch shell which was used by Lord Krishna himself.
Nrsimha pranati stuti prema veshe kaila prabhura prabhava loka chamatkara haila.
In great ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered obeisances and prayers unto Lord Nrsimha. The people were astonished to see Lord Chaitanya's influence. So this we are seeing continuously. Wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going, his personal being, his beautiful, extremely attractive features, his lotus-like eyes, his ecstasy manifesting in his body, his chanting the holy names, so his dancing, everything was astonishing. And whoever was saying, anybody who saw, the common man who saw, he developed love of God. So they were all astonished by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's influence. And here again we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he offered his obeisances in great ecstatic love and offered prayers. So Narsimha prayers are, if you see in ISKCON temples, after Mangala Aarti and after all major aartis, actually the Narsimha prayers are offered at least 3 times a day. Shiva Kanchi Asiya Kaila Shiva Darshana Prabhave Vaishnava Kaila Sava Shaiva Gana.
Arriving at Shiva Kanchi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the deity of Lord Shiva. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has arrived in Kanchipuram. Kanchipuram is very close to Chennai, and this Kanchipuram place is divided actually in 2 areas, Shiva Kanchi and Vishnu Kanchi, or there are temples of Lord Shiva and then there are temples of Lord Vishnu. So here specifically it talks about that Lord is visiting Shiva Kanchi, and this place he is meeting, like visiting different Shiva temples, and whoever is there, the devotees, so everybody, just by seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they start chanting and dancing along with him, and they are also becoming Vaishnavas.
So another interesting thing is that Lord is visiting the temples of Lord Shiva, understanding that he is a great devotee of the Lord. He is the greatest Vaishnava, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he visited there and he offered his obeisances, and of course, so many devotees are converted to Vaishnavism. So what happens when we when we go to a Vishnu temple and we offer our obeisances, we keep the deities to our left side, and that's how we offer our obeisances to the Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. When we go to temples of Lord Shiva, or we may happen to visit any other temple, then because they are all servants of the Lord, so we do not offer the same respect as we offer to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So we offer them obeisances, keeping the deity on our right. Vishnu Kanchi Asi Dekhi Lila Lakshmi Narayana Pranama Kariya Kaila Bahuta Stavana.
The Lord then visited a holy place known as Vishnu Kanchi. There he saw Lakshmi Narayan deities and he offered his respects and many prayers to please them. So he visited Shiva Kanchi, and here it is the mention of the Vishnu Kanchi. So again, there are many temples, out of which 15 are very prominent temple in this area. There is a temple of Lord Varadaraj Swami, which is the most important temple in Kanchipuram. Then there is a temple of Pandav Doot, there is a temple of Adi Varaha. So there are various temples of Vishnu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally visited them and he offered his respects and prayers to all these temples.
Prema Vesha Nritya Gita Bahuta Karila Dina Duirahi Loke Krishna Bhakta Kaila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in Vishnu Kanchi for 2 days, he danced and performed kirtana in ecstasy. When all the people saw him, they were converted into devotees of Lord Krishna. Trimalaya dekhi gela Trikalhasti sthane Mahadeva dekhi tanre karila praname.
After visiting Trimalaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Trikalhasti. There he saw Lord Shiva and offered him all respects and obeisances. So this place Trikalhasti or Sri Kalahasti, this is actually situated around 22 miles away from Tirupati, and this is on a river known as Suvarnamukhi. So this temple he visited, which is again a prominent temple of Lord Shiva. Pakshi Tirtha dekhi Kaila Shiva Darshana Vriddha Kola Tirthe Tave Karila Gamana.
At Pakshi Tirtha, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Shiva. Then he went to Vriddha Loka, place of pilgrimage. So this we see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been visiting many Lord Shiva temples, and so sometimes people have this question: Lord Ramchandra worshipped Lord Shiva, and therefore who's greater? Is Lord Ram greater or is Lord Shiva greater? Because Lord Ram is worshipping Lord Shiva, and therefore Lord Shiva must be greater. So many times people give that logic, And so we understand that here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Srimad Bhagavatam declares, and we are reading Chaitanya Charitamrta, there's been so many verses from other scriptures which point out that Lord Chaitanya is non-different from Krishna. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. We have been reading in so many different chapters, and here this supreme personality is offering his respects to Lord Shiva. So what do we understand? So we should not get into that confusion. It is the great humility of the Lord that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come in the mood of the devotee, and as a devotee he is offering the respects to an exalted Vaishnava as Lord Shiva. Shvetavara dekhi tanre namaskari, Pitambara Shiva sthane gela gaurahari.
At Vriddha Kola, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Shvetavaraha, the white boar incarnation. So he visited a Varahadev temple here. After offering him respects, the Lord visited the temple of Lord Shiva, wherein the deity is dressed in yellow garments. So that is why it is mentioned Pitambara Shiva. So this deity is dressed in yellow garments, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited both these places.
Shiyali Bhairavi Devi Kari Darshana, Kaveri Ratire Aila Shachidanandana. After visiting the temple of Shiyali Bhairavi, a form of goddess Durga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Shachi, went to the bank of river Kaveri. So it was not just Lord Shiva, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also visited the temple of his good wife. And in fact, this is another very famous temple of Lord Shiva, and it is a legend there that a small boy came once who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and the goddess Durga, the deity there, called here Bhairavi, she gave him milk from her own breast.
This is in Tanjore.
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has moved there now.
Go Samaj Shiva dekhi Aila Vedavana, Mahadeva dekhi Tanre Karila Vandana.
The Lord then visited a place known as Go Samaj, where he saw Lord Shiva's temple. He then arrived at Vedavan, where he saw another deity of Lord Shiva and offered him prayers.
So, one more thing. See, the purpose of Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas, and in fact, the purpose of Lord coming into this material world was to inspire everyone to take up Krishna Bhakti. So, where would he find devotees? Of course, in Vishnu temples, we find Vishnu devotees, but where would he find the others? So, when he would visit a Lord Shiva temple, he would find Lord Shiva's devotees. And there when he would go and he would offer him prayers and he would do Nama Sankirtan, then the devotees of Lord Shiva also will start chanting Lord Krishna's name. So we saw that in earlier verses. And so Lord Chaitanya is visiting all these places. His mission is only one, is to inspire everyone to take up the process of Nama Sankirtan, to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Amritlinga Shiva dekhi Vandana Karila, Sava Shiva Laya Shaiva Vaishnava Aila. Seeing the Shiva deity named Amritling, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances. Thus he visited all the temples of Lord Shiva and converted the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas.
Hare Hare. Devastane asi kaila Vishnu darshana, Shri Vaishnave Rera Sangetaha Goshti Anukshana. At Devasthan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Vishnu, and there he talked with the Vaishnavas in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya. These Vaishnavas are known as Sri Vaishnavas. So finally he is visiting a Vishnu temple, and where there are Sri Vaishnava devotees, the followers of Sripad Ramanujacharya, and there Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a discussion with them.
कुंभकर्ण कपाले देखी सरोवर शिव क्षेत्र शिव देखे गौरंग सुंदरा. At Kumbhakarna Kapal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw a great lake and then the holy place named Shiva Kshetra, where a temple of Lord Shiva is located. So now he has reached to this place Kumbhakarna Kapal. Actually, Kumbhakarna is the name of brother of Ravan, that is how we know. And at present, this particular place where where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there, Kumbhakarna Kapal, so this place has got the name Kumbhakonam. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Kumbhakonam, and there are various temples, especially 12 important temples of Lord Shiva located there. There is a temple, there are 4 Vishnu temples, and then there is 1 temple of Lord Brahma. So this is in the city of Kumbhakonam. Papanashane Vishnu Kaila Darshana Shriranga Kshetre Tabe Karila Gamana.
After visiting the holy place named Shiva Kshetra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Papanashan and there saw the temple of Lord Vishnu. Then he finally reached Sri Ranga Kshetra. So after visiting so many holy places, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Papanashanam, and there he saw the temple of Lord Vishnu, and finally he has arrived at Sri Ranga Kshetra. So Ranga Kshetra or Sri Rangam is actually an island in Kaveri River. So if we are visiting from Chennai, we can remember, we cross the bridge, we reach Sri Rangam, and then there is another bridge to actually reach the city of Tiruchi.
Is it Papanashanam, same place where we visited few years back? Shiva Sailam.
Yeah, there was one place with the same name, but
yeah.
I'm not sure whether it is the same Papanashanam. And so this temple, Sri Rangam temple, those of us who are being fortunate to visit, it is an exceptionally beautiful temple. It is the most massive or the biggest temple in India. In fact, when we saw the beginning of this session, the Raj Gopuram, that is I think the tallest Gopuram in India, and it is really, really impressive. It is visible actually from the highway itself. There are 7 walls and there are 7 roads surrounding the Sri Rangam temple, and many celebrated kings like Kulashekar Alwar and Yamunacharya, Ala Bandaru, and so they were all visiting the temples, and they resided in fact the temple of Sri Rangam. And then prominent acharyas like Yamunacharya, Sri Ramanujacharya and Sudarshanacharya, they all were supervisors of this temple at some point in history.
Kaveri te snana kari dekhi Ranganatha stuti pranati kari mani Lila Kritartha. After bathing in the river Kaveri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the temple of Ranganath and offered his ardent prayers and obeisances. Then he felt himself successful. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the temple of Ranganath, and after actually offering obeisances and having darshan of Ranganath deities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeling that he is successful. So can you imagine the good fortune of those of us who can actually visit Ranganath Swami and have his darshan? It's a very, very beautiful and gorgeous temple, huge temple, and it's a very important temple also.
And there are many, many pastimes. And before we look at some of them, we see here that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first took bath in river Kaveri and then visited the temple of Ranganath Swami. So this is another etiquette which many devotees follow if they visit a holy place. If there's a place, they will go and take bath first, purify themselves, and then visit the temple. So here also is the incarnation of goddess of fortune called Andal, and she was one of the 12 Alvars, the great devotees who sung the glories of Lord, and they were great devotees of the Lord. So she was married to the deity of Sri Ranganath, and later she merged with the body of the Lord here, of the Ranganath Swami. And also Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that when just around 300 years, 289 years were over after the Kali Yuga started, there was a great alvar called Tondara Dipadi. He was born here and he engaged in devotional service. But unfortunately, it happened that he fell from his position. He fell for a prostitute. And when Sri Ranganath Swami saw that his devotee has degraded so much, so once what he did was, that time Ranganath Swami was offered everything. All the vessels used in the service of Ranganath Swami were made of solid gold. So he sent one of his golden plates to this prostitute's house. Now, what happened is that when the archakas and when the servants of Ranganath Swami, they, while doing the service of the Lord, they noticed that one golden plate is missing. So they were searching, and finally this plate was discovered at that house of that prostitute. Now, this devotee, Tondara Dipadi, when he realized that Lord has actually given so much mercy to this lowly society girl, his heart changed, he became purified, and he was reinstated in his position as a great devotee of the Lord. Prema vesha kaila baho dana nartana dekhi chamatkara haila sabalokir mana.
In the temple of Ranganath, Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu chanted and danced in ecstatic love of Godhead. Seeing his performance, everyone was struck with wonder. So it was such a beautiful sight to behold when Chaitanya Mahāprabhu was actually dancing in Ranganath Swami's temple in the courtyard. And whoever would see, they were actually getting converted, or they were becoming ecstatic. Just by seeing him, they were becoming Vaishnav, they were acquiring the love of Godhead.
And Prabhupada again mentions in the purport, I think of the previous verse itself, that Srirpad Ramanujacharya, he had a very, very glorious disciple called Kuresh. And if you hear the pastimes of Kuresh, actually tears will come to eyes. And then his great grandson was Sudarshan Acharya. So when Sudarshan Acharya was an old man, Muslims actually attacked the temple of Sri Ranganath, and almost 1200 Sri Vaishnavas were slaughtered. They were killed. And then the deities of Ranganath Swami were transferred from Sri Rangam. They were shifted to Tirupati. Prema veshe kaila bahud gana natana Shri Vaishnava eka vyankat bhatta nama Prabhu re nimantran kaila kariya sammana.
A Vaishnava known as Venkat Bhatt then invited Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu to his home with great respect. So now this is another amazing personality whom we are talking about. His name is Sri Venkat Bhatt. He was a Vaishnav Brahman and he was staying in Sri Ranga Kshetra, or in Sri Rangam area. And he is actually a Sri Vaishnava. He comes in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya. So he is a very important personality, and we will see that his son Gopal Bhatt Goswami, he actually becomes one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So we talk about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. We mentioned about him, we discussed about him in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrta, because those 6 Goswamis are said to be the direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. So his son Gopal Bhatt Goswami is one of those 6 Goswamis.
Nija ghare lana kaila pad prakshalana Se jala lana kaila sevam she bhakshana. Sri Venkat Bhatta took Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home. After he washed the Lord's feet, all the members of his family drank the water. The kind of faith they had in the Supreme Lord, in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Venkat Bhatt took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu home. He did Pad Puja of the Lord, and then all the family members drank that water.
So actually it is said that there are 3 things which can give us pure love of Godhead and which can actually liberate us from all our sinful reactions. So those 3 things which the Vaishnavas, 3 Mahas which the Vaishnavas honor the most. One is Mahaprasad, or the food which is left by the pure devotee of the Lord, the senior Vaishnavas, the exalted Vaishnavas. If we get their Mahaprasad. Second is their Charan Dhuli, or the dust from their lotus feet. And the third is the water which washes their feet. So here we see Venkat Bhatt following the same set of things, and he's taking the water after washing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet.
And
Not only him, but the whole family.
yeah, and for the deities, we have Charanamrita every day. We visit the temple and we take Charanamrita of the Lord.
भिक्षाकारना किछु कैला निवेदना चातुर्मास्य आसी प्रभु हैला उपसन्ना.
After offering lunch to the Lord, Venkata Bhatta submitted that the period of Chaturmas had already arrived.
So currently actually Chaturmasya period is going on. Chaturmasya are the 4 months. So these 4 months, generally the sannyasis and the mendicants, they would not travel and they would stay in one place.
They will stay in one place, intensify their bhajan and their meditation of the Supreme Lord, and they will observe lot of restrictions, and it is also a period of austerity.
Chaturmasya kripa kari raha mora ghare, Krishna katha kahi kripaay udhara hamare. Venkat Bhatt said, please be merciful to me and stay at my house during Chaturmasya. Speak about Lord Krishna's pastimes and kindly deliver me by your mercy. So Venkat Bhatt made this request to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because anyway it is Chaturmasya, so 4 months you would be staying, so why don't you stay at my house?
This is such an ecstatic arrangement. Venkat Bhatt saying, please stay, and 4 months, please explain Krishna Katha, Supreme Lord himself staying. So the opportunity to serve him personally and to hear from him.
Tanra ghare rahila Prabhu, Krishna katha rase, Bhatta sange gona ila, sukhe chari mase.
Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the house of Venkata Bhatta for 4 continuous months. Amazing.
What a fortune.
What a fortune. The Lord passed his days in great happiness, enjoying the transcendental mellow of discussing Lord Krishna's pastimes.
So Krishna is enjoying Krishna's pastimes. Kaveri te snana kari, Shriranga darshana, Pratidina prema veshe, kare nanatana. While there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath in the river Kaveri and visited the temple of Sri Ranga. Every day the Lord also danced in ecstasy. So we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's schedule remains the same. When he was in Jagannath Puri, every day he would take bath in the ocean, go and have darshan of Jagannath, and then he would spend his day dancing and singing in ecstasy. When he was in Navadvip, he would go to Ganga, take his bath there, and then again in the evening he would gather all his devotees and perform Nam Sankirtan in Shiva Sangan. So this is actually the thing which surcharges our life with devotion, when we chant and sing in the association of devotees. Saundaryadi prema vesha, dekhi sarvaloka, dekhi bare aise dekhe, khande dukha shoka.
The beauty of Lord Chaitanya's body and his ecstatic love of God were witnessed by everyone. Many people used to come see him, and as soon as they saw him, all their unhappiness and distress vanished. Khande dukha shoka. So whatever their dukh, whatever their unhappiness was, whatever their distress was, whatever their lamentation was completely destroyed at the root.
Laksha laksha loka aila, nana desha haite,
sabe Krishna nama kahe, Prabhu ke dekhite.
Many hundreds of thousands of people from various countries came to see the Lord. And after seeing him, they all chanted, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So Lord's service went on of preaching.
Krishna nama vina geha, nahi kahe ara, sabe Krishna bhakta haila, loge chamatkara.
Indeed, they did not chant anything but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and all of them became Lord Krishna's devotees. Thus, the general populace was astonished. So, this is another common word. Every few words we hear this chamatkar and astonishment. So this was astonishing. The whole society and the people beyond, they were all coming and they were taking association of Lord Chaitanya. They were seeing him dance. They were seeing his beautiful form. They were seeing his ecstatic symptoms, and their hearts were melting, and they were taking up the process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and they were becoming the devotees of the Lord.
Actually, this particular incarnation, full of chamatkar. That incarnation itself, it's inconceivable that how Krishna and Radharani, they combine together, they get an incarnation and they come here, and how he's spreading the chanting of holy name just by his presence. He didn't even speak. He doesn't even have to speak. Just by his presence, and people are like getting attracted to him. He is attracting everyone as if he's the super magnet. And then those who come in contact with him, like how the iron filings, when they come in contact with magnet, they also become tiny little magnets. So similarly, everybody is acquiring this love of God, and then they go and meet others and they get converted into Krishna Bhakta. So this is how this whole process, astonishing.
And from all these verses, we can also understand that if we want to become sincere devotees of Lord Krishna, if we want to become nice devotees of Lord Krishna, whom do we worship? We worship Lord Chaitanya. By worshipping Lord Chaitanya, we become wonderful devotees of Lord Krishna.
Shriranga Kshetre Vaiseyata Vaishnava Brahmana Eka Dina Sabe Kailani Mantrana. All the Vaishnava Brahmanas residing in Shriranga Kshetra invited the Lord to their homes. Indeed, he had an invitation every day. So every day people would invite him, and this is actually the sort of headquarters of Sri Vaishnava. So there were so many Vaishnava Brahmins, and every day they were inviting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eka eka dine chatur masya purna haila kataka brahmana bhiksha ditena paila.
Each day, the Lord was invited by a different Brahmana, but some of the Brahmanas did not get the opportunity to offer him lunch because the period of Chaturmasya came to an end. So, of course, Chaturmasya is just 4-month period. So, that is just 120 days, and there must have been many more devotees there, and they couldn't come in the schedule. So, I'm sure they would be so very disappointed. Sei Kshetre
He ek
Vaishnava Brahmana Devalaya Asti Kare Gita Avartana.
In the holy place of Shriranga Kshetra, a Brahman Vaishnav used to visit the temple daily and recite the entire text of Bhagavad Gita. So now here is a description of an illiterate Brahman, and he would visit the temple daily, and this illiterate Brahman would recite the entire text of Bhagavad Gita.
Ashtadashadadhi pade ananda aveshe ashuddha pade na loka kare upahase. The Brahmana regularly read the 18 chapters. Ashtadashadhyaya pade ananda avesha. So the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita in great transcendental ecstasy. So this Brahmana was reading the 18 chapters, and this was giving him so much of bliss, great transcendental ecstasy. But because he could not pronounce the words correctly, people used to joke about him. Ashuddha padena. So sometimes his pronunciation was not correct, and all that issues were there, and people were here and they would just laugh. Keha se keha ninde taha nahi mane avishta na gita pade anandita mane.
Due to his incorrect pronunciation, people sometimes criticized him and laughed at him, but he did not care. He was full of ecstasy due to reading the Bhagavad Gita and was personally very happy. So now here is a Brahmana who is so focused in his bhakti that what the others were doing to him, it did not matter to him, and he was completely absorbed. And not only absorption, he was Anandita Mane. He was internally very happy. He was personally very happy.
Imagine if any one of us was there in his position, we'd feel so much discouraged when people around me are either laughing at me, criticizing me. So I would feel discouraged, and probably I will not continue with this service of reading Bhagavad Gita. But this person could handle all the toxicity around him, all the toxic people around him, and he was just so absorbed and he was just so happy reading Bhagavad Gita. Which means the Lord was so much pleased by his recitation. That's why he could feel the ecstasy. Pulakashrukam sweda yavat patana dekhi anandita haila Mahaprabhu mana.
So such ecstasy or such absorption in devotion, that gives happiness to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Dekhi anandita haila Mahaprabhu mana. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy seeing. What was he seeing? While reading the book, the Brahman experienced transcendental bodily transformations. The hair in his body stood on end, tears welled up in his eyes, and his body trembled and perspired as he read
Bhagavad Gita.
So he was reading Bhagavad Gita, and this is what he was experiencing, and that too when he was not able to read it properly. And this is what he was feeling. So when we become so absorbed in our devotion, when we attain this state, that is something which pleases Krishna himself.
And here is this one devotee who read Bhagavad Gita daily. Complete 18 chapters he was reading daily. Some of us, we feel, oh, we have read it once. Okay, I have read Bhagavad Gita.
I have got certificate also. I have completed Gita Made Easy.
Or Gita Mastery also. I have read, some people read 2-3 times. Yeah, I have read 3 times. So here we have an example of a great Vaishnava. Mahaprabhu puchil tanre shuna mahashaya kona artha jani tomar eta sukha haya. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very curious.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the Brahman, my dear sir, why are you in such ecstatic love? Which portion of Bhagavad Gita gives you such transcendental pleasure? We may also start thinking that Bhagavad Gita, first chapter is just introduction, second chapter is little dry. Krishna is talking all about soul, like so many verse after verse just describing the qualities of soul, and then third chapter is this, and fourth chapter, and from where is he getting ecstasy? There is no pastime, there is no Lila. Okay, I can understand Chaitanya Charitamrta is so ecstatic, but what about Bhagavad Gita? Why is he feeling such transcendental pleasure in reading Bhagavad Gita?
विप्र कहे मूर्ख आमी शब्दार्थ न जानी शुद्ध शुद्ध गीता पढ़ी गुरु आज्ञा मानी. The Brahmana replied, I am illiterate and therefore do not know the meaning of the words. Sometimes I read the Bhagavad Gita correctly and sometimes incorrectly. But in any case, I am doing this in compliance with the orders of my spiritual master. So, Vipra kahe mukhami, murkha, I am illiterate, I don't know, shabdarth na jani, I don't know the word meaning. Sometimes Shuddha Gita padi, sometimes Ashuddha Gita padi. The whole central point of his life, the central point of reading Bhagavad Gita was Guru Agya Mani. That this is the order of my spiritual master. His spiritual master told him, read Bhagavad Gita daily, and this is what he is doing. So by following the instructions of the spiritual master, we please the spiritual master, and by pleasing the spiritual master, we please the Supreme Lord. Such an important pastime for us to learn that how we need to perfect our lives. If we want to perfect lives, if we want to please the Supreme Lord, we must first follow the instructions of the spiritual master, please the spiritual master. If the spiritual master is pleased, naturally the Lord is pleased.
Actually, the same spirit is exhibited so beautifully. Can you go previous verse? Yeah, it's exhibited so beautifully by Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he gave him 2 instructions, which actually became the lifeline of Srila Prabhupada. The 2 instructions what he got was preach to the English speaking people, and second was whenever you get money, print books. So Prabhupada's spiritual master knew that Indians are just aping the Westerners. So if Westerners are preached to, then everybody can actually become a devotee, because Indians would ape them. So these are the 2 instructions. And when Srila Prabhupada goes to the US without any money, without any contact or reference, and he goes there and he starts preaching, And when few boys and girls, those hippie boys and girls, they started joining the movement, Srila Prabhupada would say that my Guru Maharaj is pleased and he is sending these boys and girls to assist me. So constantly he was just meditating on the instructions of his spiritual master. And that is how we see he spent his entire life. Entire night, like 3, 4, 5 hours, he would sit and just translate these books in English language, and he would make his disciples distribute these books, print these books, and distribute these books. So he made this literature, these scriptures, available in so many different languages. He translated and he made that available. And he was preaching to anyone and everyone, whoever was coming on his way, and he would always feel the presence of his Guru Maharaj. In fact, when he was asked that in US, don't you feel lonely? So he said, though he was all alone and he was pretty old, and yet he would always say that I constantly feel that my Guru Maharaj is always with me. So how do I get the association of my spiritual master? Not by actually personally staying with him, but by following his instructions. Arjunera Rathe Krishna Hayarujjudhara Vasiyache Hate Totra Syamala Sundara. The Brahmana continued, I only see Lord Krishna sitting on a chariot as Arjuna's charioteer. Taking the reins in his hand, he appears very beautiful and blackish. So now the Brahmana is explaining that why he feels so much ecstasy. So he is telling that one thing is, I'm just reading Bhagavad Gita because my spiritual master has told me to read. Second, while I'm reading, what I constantly meditate, what do I see in front of my eyes is Krishna has taken the menial position of a chariot driver. He is controlling the chariot and Arjuna is sitting. So the Supreme Lord is there and Arjuna is sitting. The devotee of the Lord is there on the rath. Arjunere kahite hita upadesha tandre dekhi haya mora ananda avesha.
While seeing Lord Krishna sitting in a chariot and instructing Arjuna, I am filled with ecstatic happiness. So this is amazing. This devotee, while chanting Bhagavad Gita, he is able to see the Supreme Lord, his beautiful blackish form. He is holding the reins and he is instructing of Arjuna. So he is able to directly perceive by reciting Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to see the Lord directly, we want to serve the Lord directly, we must first follow the instruction and please our spiritual master.
Yavat pado tavat pana tanra darshana Edagi Gita patha na chade mor mana. As long as I read the Bhagavad Gita, I simply see the Lord's beautiful features. It is for this reason that I am reading the Bhagavad Gita and my mind cannot be distracted from this. So this is how he has attained that absorption, because he is just meditating on the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord while reading Bhagavad Gita.
Prabhu kahe Gita pathe tomare adhikara tumi se jana hai Gitarartha sara. Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu told the Brahmana, indeed you are an authority in reading of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you know constitutes the real purport of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is perfection of reading of Bhagavad Gita. That by reading Bhagavad Gita, we are able to have darshan of the Lord as a charioteer in his that most beautiful of all forms. So Lord is saying that you are an authority. Tumhara ye adhikar. You are the one who is actually an authority in reading Bhagavad Gita. And you know the real import. Gitar arthasar. You know the essence of the meaning of Bhagavad Gita.
Itabali se vipra kailingana Prabhupada dhari vipra karena rodana. After saying this, Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu embraced the Brahman, and the Brahman, catching the lotus feet of the Lord, began to cry. Tuma dekhita haite dvigun sukhaya Se Krishna tumi hai na mora mane raya.
The Brahmana said, upon seeing you, my happiness is doubled. I take it that you are the same Lord Krishna. So this Brahmana was reading Bhagavad Gita, is having darshan of the Lord, and then when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his happiness doubled. And then he is able to understand that you are Sakshat same Krishna, the charioteer of Arjuna. Krishna Spurti Tanramana Hanachi Nirmala Ataiva Prabhur Tattva Janila Sakala.
The mind of the Brahmana was purified by the revelation of Lord Krishna, and therefore he could understand the truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all details. So because he was pure in his mind, and that is why he could understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Tabe Mahaprabhu Tanre Karaila Shikshana Ehi Baat Kaha Na Kariha Prakashana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then taught the Brahmana very thoroughly and requested him not to disclose the fact that he was Lord Krishna himself.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm sure that today's session was a very fascinating journey, ups and downs here and there, sometime Vishnu temple, sometime Shiva temple, sometime Nrsimha temple, sometime Bhairavi temple. So with Mahaprabhu, we were traveling all over the place, and finally at this most beautiful place of Ranganath Swami, where we had the darshan, where we had bath in holy river Kaveri, and then we had darshan of Ranganath Swami, and then we met this amazing Brahmana who's giving us so many instruction, and especially how it is important to follow the orders of our spiritual master. So we are looking forward to hear from you your learnings from today's session. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maya